Hello. Today I'd like to talk about mind loops. Mind loops are self-reinforcing thoughts and feelings. They're, I guess you could have good mind loops, but I'm talking today about bad mind loops. Ones that make you feel bad, and then you think more about it, and then you feel bad, and then you think more about it, and then you feel bad, and it just keeps going. And sometimes when you think about feeling bad and that you realize you're in a mind loop, then you feel bad about feeling bad. And it just continues. This past week I've been trying to practice a technique to try to escape those mind loops. Not escape, no. Escape is the opposite of how this technique works. It actually, I think what it does is it makes these mind loops that keep going over and over again. There could be anxiety or fear or shame or there's a number of bad feelings, violence. These mind loops, by doing this thing, I think what happens is that mind loop just implodes into nothingness. And I wanted to talk about this technique, but I wanted to explain how I came here, how I got to this point. And it's actually related to that video I made about quitting neurosurgery. So in that video I explained why I wanted to quit neurosurgery and like all the issues that I was thinking about in terms of medical issues, healthcare issues, people's health, helping people understand that they can improve their own health. They have a lot of power to improve their own health, and that the healthcare system does help, but a lot of times it can hurt too. But the part that I neglected to mention in that video was there was another reason why I left medicine. It was related in a way to the other video, but I was stuck in a mind loop. I was stuck in a mind loop of fear of the future. And part of me wanted to be stuck in that mind loop. So let me explain. I had mentioned in two other videos about my fear of collapse. Collapse is the idea that the civilization we live in is deteriorating gradually or quickly, and that our future conditions of living will be worse than they are today. That could be from any number of things, overpopulation, crowding, environmental stuff. I mean, there's a big fire. Oh, you can actually see it. There's a mountain right there. And then there's a big cloud just to the left that looks different than all the other clouds. All the other clouds are white. There's a red cloud, slightly red, pinkish cloud. Over there, that's a huge fire. And the old me would have looked at that slightly red cloud and just like went right into this mind loop of fear of the future and despair and lack of hope, thoughts of destruction. So over the last several years, I had joined the collapse subreddit. I don't really recommend that to most people. There's a subreddit called r/collapse, and it talks all about this, like everything you could possibly want to know about collapse. And boy, that is a rabbit hole I went down, and I learned a lot. This actually was very helpful, lots of information, but it just reinforced this fear cycle, this thoughts of fear of the future, and not accepting the present, because I thought the present was leading to that awful future, and so there's no way we can accept, or no way I can accept this present, because it's going to go to that future, even though the future doesn't exist yet, and we don't know what the future is. But there's this loop that I kept being in, where I would research about climate change, research about Earth temperature, sea surface temperatures. I read about forest fires and microplastic pollution and forever chemicals, and then overpopulation, migration, and like, have we overshot our population limits with the amount of food that we have? Like, did we go way past our planetary capacity? Like, what is the Earth's capacity? Can it hold 8 billion people sustainably? Can it hold 10 billion? Or is it only 1 or 2 billion? You know, these are the thoughts that I was spending my free time after work, which was a busy job as a neurosurgeon. I was spending my free time reading about these very heavy topics that they can induce a lot of anxiety and depression, and they did. But actually, I was probably already anxious and depressed and feeling hopeless because of for a number of reasons. One of them was that I explained in the neurosurgery video about why I quit. But that feeling of despair and fear of the future, not accepting the present, that fed into this collapse mindset. And I'll explain why. So that collapse mindset is this fear of an awful thing coming in the future, which, I mean, we might be headed to, but I'll explain why you don't have to fear it. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I'm just saying that you don't have to fear it, and I'll explain how. When I was in that really bad mental state, I actually wanted to read about collapse. I wanted to feel bad about the future because I was already feeling bad. But I actually subconsciously, now looking back, at the moment I didn't think it. I thought I was trying to do my due diligence to prevent a bad outcome in the future, but looking back, I realized I was in a mind loop of feeling bad, and I didn't like where I was, and in a way, thinking about collapse was an escape, because if the world is gonna suddenly get like really bad, and lots of people are gonna die, probably including myself, then I didn't have to go to my job anymore. And that's really messed up. But if an asteroid hits the planet, I don't have to go back to the operating room and operate anymore. If civilization collapses, then I really just got to worry about food and water and avoiding the cannibal raiders that are hunting people because we ran out of food supplies. I mean, that's kind of where my mind was going. And I realized that that's really just that mind pattern, in retrospect, I realized was just like a fantasy way that I could think about myself destructing, a self-destruction where my suffering would end. I fantasized about that kind of stuff, and there was this subreddit called Collapse that I read like everything that came out in that subreddit for like years, and I liked it. I liked feeling scared and anxious and sad, and I felt like that the people in that subreddit, they were horrified by the present. I was horrified by the present because of where I was and not dealing with the issues that I discussed in the other video, and I wanted things to end. Well, when I was contemplating quitting, I thought, well, crap. All the forests here are going up in flames. All the animals and bugs and birds and fishies that we know, a lot of them are dying. I gotta get out there and I gotta see these things. I gotta experience them because they may be gone. And so a big reason why I left neurosurgery, which I did not mention in the other video, but this was like a big reason, and I didn't know how to talk about it without going on this huge tangent, which I am now. Well, this whole video is that tangent. I didn't know how to talk about this reason until now. So a big reason why I left was I thought that all the beautiful things in nature here are disappearing, and I want to be out there and see and experience and feel and taste and dip my feet in an ice cold lake. I wanted to see the glaciers before they melt. You know, that was my reason to. That was another reason to leave neurosurgery. Even though I didn't have a plan, I was like, you know what, I just got to get out there. At that time, I didn't think I was going to do a YouTube channel about nature. I just wanted to physically be out there, backpacking, camping. So yeah, that mind loop of anxiety and fear led me to be out in nature. Well, I'm very grateful actually for that, because being out in nature is very healing. But I quit almost a year ago now, like it's already been 11 months. So it's almost a year. And that mind loop that I had of fear of the future and not accepting the present was still very strong. Up until the last couple weeks, actually. Well, yeah, last couple weeks. I mean, I got a hint of it when I purposely went backpacking where there was a burnt forest that had burned. It had burned 2 decades ago, and all the trees went up in flames, and they're still standing there, dead and black and charred. And I knew that forest had burnt, and that trail went through the burnt forest. And I was curious, and I went there, and I thought I was going to feel really sad. And I did feel sad initially. But then I saw that, this is a video, by the way. It's called How a Burnt Forest Helped Me Move Beyond Collapse. I think that's the name of the title. But I made that video by walking through the burnt forest. And then I saw that even though the trees were gone, the burnt branches were gone. So the sunlight had come through, and there were all these other plants that wouldn't have lived there if the light wasn't able to come through. There were bushes, there were flowers, there were butterflies, birds, all kinds of smaller trees were starting to grow back, but not the big ones. And then that was kind of like my first inkling that, wait a second, how I'm thinking about collapse isn't really quite right, because there's all this life here. Even though the trees are dead, and I'm standing amongst dead trees there's so much life still there. And I was standing, all these flowers, butterflies. There's these giant like dandelions. They're not actually dandelions, but they look like giant dandelions. They're like this big, and I was just picking them and blowing the little seeds out. And I was thinking, this actually is really nice. There's life all around me. I'm alive. I'm standing amongst all kinds of life. And I was standing in this valley it was by this lake, this deep lake, that was carved by glaciers a long time ago into a very deep lake. And like I realized that, whoa, wait a second. This whole mountainside with the dead trees, but a bunch of life around it, there was no life, like no life forms like that when it was buried under a mile of ice. So even though this forest was dying, the trees at least, there was other life. And some of this life, or most of the life, wasn't even there when the glaciers were here. So it's like, why was I feeling so sad about a forest coming and going in a time span that far exceeds my lifespan? I just realized that everything changes, and there's life just goes on. But I didn't quite understand, how I was thinking about collapse and why it was a mind loop and how to get out of the mind loop. It wasn't until I went to a Willie Nelson and Sheryl Crow and Chris Stapleton concert. This was like a week ago, maybe. I think it was a week ago. We were sitting, my wife and I. We don't go to many concerts, but we really like Chris Stapleton, and so we went to this concert in, I think it's T-Mobile Park. The Seattle Mariners, the baseball team. They have a big stadium there, and because we don't go to many concerts, we ended up going to the venue when the doors are open, because we thought that's when the concert would start, but that was the doors open. So we got there really early. And we're sitting there in the baseball stadium, and people are trickling in. And we asked somebody, he was like, "Oh, when does the show actually start?" And we're like, "Oh, 2 hours." Oh, well, okay. I guess we're just going to sit here for 2 hours. And just sitting there, and I was like watching people come in. I'm like, wow, this is a big stadium. How many people can fit in here? And I looked it up. For a concert, 18,000 people can fit in that stadium. And so they're just sitting there, just looking, enjoying the nice weather. My wife was just sitting there enjoying the nice weather too. There's seagulls flying above us, and yeah, my mind started going back to that mind loop of collapse. And I was thinking, well, what if the stadium is like the Earth? And the Earth has a capacity of 18,000 people. And more people keep coming in. And then I played a game with myself. I'm like, if one person comes in the stadium and then the next minute 2 people come in, or no, it doubles to 2 people, and then the next minute it doubles to 4 people, and then the next minute it doubles again, now we got 8 people, and then the next minute the number of people double to 16. Okay, now we're getting to the limits of my math ability. Just running out of fingers. So I pulled out my calculator, and I said, well, how many minutes would it take if there was doubling for the whole stadium to be filled up? Surprisingly, it's only 15 minutes. If you start with one person and you double each minute. Only 15 minutes to reach 18,000. And then I was like, at what time, so if it takes 15 minutes to get to 18,000, what time is it half full? So at what time is it half full, which would be 9,000 people? Turns out that's at 14 minutes. So from 14 minutes to 15 minutes, 9,000 people enter the stadium. That just sent me down this mind loop where I was like, oh crap. We have 8 billion people on this planet, and we got so many people. It's like, where are we in the capacity of this planet? Like, do we still have like room for 20 billion? But if we're already at 8 billion, it's just another minute and it's gonna be 16 billion. And I was like, oh no, we're gonna run out of resources. Maybe the Earth's capacity is actually 4 billion and we're already double past it. So then I was like, oh, maybe people are wrong, because like Malthus, he thought that we would cap out a long time ago, and we blew way past that. And then, there's people talking about going to Mars, or, spreading through space. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly don't want to live on Mars or in a spaceship. I like walking around. I like seeing plants and water, so I don't want to live on Mars. But yeah, that's where my mind went when I was sitting waiting to hear a Sheryl Crow, Willie Nelson, and Chris Stapleton concert. And then Sheryl Crow came on. She was opening for Chris Stapleton. She was the first performer. And then I saw her amazing smile. She's so beautiful, and her smile is so beautiful. It makes you just feel so happy and joyful. She is so cool. She is a really cool lady. Well, sorry about that. I forgot to change my GoPro settings, and if you don't have the right settings, it overheats. So yeah, it overheated. So I had to change it out. All right, so I was at the Sheryl Crow was playing, and she is just so mesmerizing, so beautiful and charismatic, and such a great singer. I forgot about my collapsed thoughts. And then she stopped playing, and then Willie Nelson was getting ready to play, and then I started thinking about, I was like, whoa, there's so many people in the stadium. I started thinking about that stuff again. And then Willie Nelson came on, and he's singing. What a cool dude. I mean, 90 years old, and still singing and playing and doing what he loves. That was really cool. And of course, Chris Stapleton was amazing I mean, I saw him once before. He was just as amazing as then. But then I was looking at the crowd, and I just felt different. I was like, you know what? This stadium's full. It's 18,000 people. And if this was the Earth, it'd be like 8 billion people are here. But in this stadium, we're listening to Chris Stapleton just sing his heart out. And everyone's having a great time. Everyone's connected to Chris Stapleton singing. And I thought, wait a second. This is really cool. Yeah, sure, the stadium is full. There's 18,000 people here. But it's just really cool that we're all here and we're all connected and we're having a big party. A party that needs a stadium to fill. And then I was like, well, wait, this might be applicable to my thoughts about the Earth. And it's like, okay, we got 8 billion people on this planet. There's more people and coming into existence every minute. maybe this is just a huge party. This is the biggest party that humans have ever had, ever, in all of history. And we're connected by internet, or most of us are, so that we can communicate and we can share and we can laugh, we can cry, we can comfort each other. Well, you can also say really mean things on the internet too, but we're able to have a grand old party. Maybe I should think about it that way. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the way to think about it. We are having an 8 billion person party. And I was like, okay, I should just think about it that way. And then my fear of collapse should just go away. Well, it didn't. A couple days later, I'm starting to. I don't remember what I was thinking about. I mean, there's always forest fires, like that one over there. Actually, I think that fire is. I'm not sure which fire that is, but it's in the direction of where I hiked in that burnt forest. I know that burnt forest went up in flames again. So that trail I went on is completely burnt again. Yeah, it just, there's a lot of reasons to think about the collapse thing that I was thinking about. I mean, you just open up any news site and you see all kinds of terrible things happening in the world. The war, you got protesters, protesters getting jailed. It's just, you can't not think about it. So yeah, thinking about life as a big party, it kind of helped, but it didn't remove the fear and that cycle of thoughts, that anxiety and stuff that I had built up in my mind. It was so strong that even I'm thinking about it at a Willie Nelson concert. I mean, people are smoking up marijuana all around me. I was probably high from secondary smoke, and I was still thinking about like that stuff. I mean, that's how strong that mind loop was. And then I was just talking with my wife, and she was just talking about the stuff she's going through, and her personal issues. And I was listening to how she was dealing with her personal issues. And then I was thinking about how I couldn't escape, or I thought I couldn't escape this mind loop. It just kept popping up. Even though I quit neurosurgery, I'm very happy that I'm alive. I'm happy that I get to be out here. I'm happy I get to explore things with my brother and friends and my doggy and my brother's doggy. I'm happy that I can sit next to a half-frozen lake and hear a stream on the mountain. I'm not doing a job that caused me a lot of anguish. A lot of things changed, but I still kept thinking about this collapse thing, and it bothered me. Well, it bothered me. Yeah, I felt bad. I felt bad about it. It almost became a habit. But I was listening to my wife deal with something that she was working on, and she had recommended trying to embrace the bad feelings. And I had made that video about feeling bad about doing what I was told to do, and then trying to suppress it and lie to myself. And that's not a good way to live. So since that video, which was I think it was like a month ago, I've been trying to embrace bad feelings and welcome them and let them be part of me, because they help protect me from some things. But if you try to push them away and like lock them away in a basement, then they just come back with a vengeance. And so I've been practicing that. And my wife was trying to really just like dive head first into all these bad feelings, which is good so that you can accept them. But then I was thinking, I think there's something about this mind loop, about feeling bad and feeling fear, and there's a loop with the future and the present. And for some reason, one day, this was last week, I was like, what if I just accept whatever I'm fearful of as real and happening right now? Like, what would happen? Because I hadn't done that before, because I grew up in a Christian home, and I was always told that you should never confess something that is bad, because then it could become true. Like if you say, oh, I think I'm gonna trip and fall and break my arm. Well, if you say that, then it might come true. And so I was always told you should only say, like, positive things. Like good things will happen. Good things will happen. Good things will happen. Think positive. All those things. And that bad things in the future, you should not accept that, because you don't want that to happen. So you push it away, push the bad things away. You don't want, you say, oh, they shouldn't happen. They're bad. So I was just sitting there and I was thinking, what happens if I just say whatever I'm fearful of is real and is here? So I did that. I don't remember what I did that with first, but I think it was collapse. So I said to myself, the future I fear of running out of energy resources, and that leads to lack of food and mass starvation, and then just breakdown of all civil order, and then everyone's scavenging for food, and then pretty much all the food supplies run out, and then people resort to cannibalism. I mean, okay, that's how far I had gone down this loop. And I was like, how do I survive in that kind of environment? But I thought, well, I'm just gonna accept that that's real and that's gonna happen. Well, that is happening. I just bring it from the future, and I say, okay, that's what I fear. I'm gonna just bring it to here and say, it's real, it's happening. And I accept it. I don't run away from it. I'm not pushing it away. I'm bringing it into me. And I said that. And then it was gone. Even doing it just now, it's gone. I'm sitting here. I got the sun's going down over this cliff that's in front of me, so I'll probably be in the shadows soon. I hear the water. Half frozen lake. My bro's sunbathing over there, and I have no idea where my friend is. Yeah, but not thinking about the collapse. My mind loop, just as soon as I brought that thing that I was trying to hide from and push away, as soon as I brought that into me and I accepted it, that fear of the future just goes poof. I think more likely, a better description is it implodes, and it becomes nothing. Because that future of collapse that I was thinking about, with all the running out of food, everyone's starving and they're fighting each other, and then eventually cannibalism, that might happen, but it's not happening right now. So that is just an idea. It doesn't exist. So it is nothing. It is nothing, and that it was in my mind, and I was pushing that nothing away and creating a separation. So I was creating something from nothing by not accepting that thought. But when I accepted the thought, then I realized that it's just a thought about the future, which doesn't exist, only now exists. So when you accept nothing, there's nothing out there, you've been pushing it away, and that resistance is something, when you're resisting it, but then you take that nothing and you accept it here, well, you've accepted nothing. I know this sounds really weird, this sounds like super woo-woo, and like, I don't know, probably some people are going to write in the comments like, what the hell is this guy talking about for 30 minutes or whatever. But it's sort of like a weird mind thing that if I accept what I fear and say it's real, there are three outcomes. The usual outcome, which is number one, is that you realize that fear is, or what you feared is not real, it doesn't exist, and then it disappears. It's not that you pushed it away or suppressed it, hid it away somewhere. You actually brought it towards you, into you, and then you realize, oh wait, I'm alive. We're not eating each other. We have food. I have food in my backpack. My brother-in-law's over there. My friend's over there. He's not trying to eat me. I'll be able to upload this video when I go home, probably. That thing that I was fearing is not real. So yeah, three outcomes. One outcome is whatever you fear, you realize doesn't exist, and it disappears. It implodes on itself. And then you're just left in the present, living. That's the usual outcome. Another outcome is you bring whatever you fear, you bring it towards you, and then you accept it, and it becomes part of you, and then you look around at the present, and then you realize, oh, we are living in whatever I am living in whatever I was fearing. I mean, in a way, we are. There's a huge, sorry, didn't mean to cuss. There's a huge fire burning a forest right over there. You know, that wasn't happening 50 years ago in this state. Things have just gotten hotter and drier. Our snowpack was below average this year. So things are drier and it's hotter. So, I mean, the second possible outcome is you bring whatever you fear towards yourself and you look around and then you say, oh yeah, that is real and it's right now, I'm living it. So something interesting happens there is that you're not fearing something in the future anymore, because whatever you were fearing is you actually brought it to the present, and you look around and you realize, oh, I'm actually living it. Then you don't fear that. You don't fear something in the future. You're living it, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm sitting here. There's a forest burning behind me. I'm with my friends. I'm alive. I have food. There's a lot of living things around here. We saw a ptarmigan and her 3 or 4 babies on the stream just over there. The ptarmigan's a bird that lives up here. That's cool. Yeah, sure. There's a forest burning, and yeah, things are changing. Things always change. Things are changing really, really fast right now. And we have 8 billion people on this planet, and things are changing so fast. I mean, you add in like AI, and then we're like, whoa, I don't even know how to keep up with all this stuff. But you're not fearing a future anymore, because you're like, this is the present, this is my life. Yeah, there's a burning fire over there. I'm sitting here making a video. I am now in the shade. So my lighting is probably not very good, but I'm going to keep talking. Yeah, I don't fear that fire. that fire is happening. I'm not denying it. I accept that it's happening. And I accept that I live in now where there are forest fires and things are changing. Then my thoughts are, what a time to be alive. Things are changing so quick. And we're connected, and there's so many people. And the party analogy still applies. There are 8 billion people that are almost all connected by the internet. This is the biggest party that we've ever had. And sure, there are some fights in this party, some wars going on, but there's a lot of cool things happening too. Like, I can make this video and then share these thoughts and ideas with a lot of people, and then people will write back and comment, and they'll think about it, and other people will make other videos, and then this video might affect someone's life choices, and maybe they don't fear collapse anymore, and then maybe they think of a great way to live, maybe just for themselves, maybe for a lot of people. I mean, this is a pretty cool time to be alive. So those were two possibilities. One was whatever you're fearing is not real and doesn't exist, and you realize that, and it implodes and goes away. The second is you bring that fearful thing to the present, and you realize, oh, I am living that. But then you don't fear it anymore. You just live. You just live and do what you need to do. The third option, or the third possibility, is that whatever you're fearing is still in the future, and there's no way to know one way or the other. But that's kind of staying in the mind loop, because you're that's kind of staying in the mind loop because you're still thinking about the future. So I think possibility 3, when you run into possibility 3, like, oh, are all the things that I'm gonna pack for this trip, are they gonna fit in the bag or car that I have? I don't know. You just gotta live. You just gotta pack the bag and see. I don't know if this bag can fit everything that I want to. There's only one way to find out. I gotta put stuff in the bag. So that's what I've been thinking about. Oh my gosh, my leg's asleep. That's what I've been thinking about for the last week. Is whenever I fear something or am sad about something, actually I've been trying it for good feelings too. Like, oh, I'm really excited about this movie coming out. I think about it, and then I bring it back to the present, to myself, and I say, I accept it's real. That mind loop just disappears. I can just be aware of what's happening. Like, it's getting pretty late, and my friends are probably wondering, like, man, we should probably be going. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share, is how to break mind loops. That could be for anxiety, fear, worry, could be shame, could be feeling that you're not good enough. It could be it could be socially related. It could be like, oh, I might not have enough money to do something, or it could be worried about your kids. I hope my kids are going to be okay. And they're all mind loops about the future that can be destructive if you stay in the mind loop. Now, it's helpful to think about the future, just to live, but it's not healthy to stay in the future, especially staying in a mind loop about collapse. Now, I'm not saying collapse isn't happening. I think it's actually, a lot of things are happening about the things that I had thought about, and they're happening now. And that does not mean that I ignore it, or I don't act on it, or make personal choices related to it. By bringing it to the present and realizing, oh yeah, there are some aspects of collapse that are actually happening right now, and we're living it, and we're headed in a trajectory, a particular trajectory. It really helps me act and live rather than be paralyzed in fear or depression. And by being in the present, I realized that I really love being alive. I really love everything that's around me. I love the ptarmigan. I love the ptarmigan babies. I love this stream. I love this lake. I love my brother-in-law who's passed out over there. I love my friend. I don't know where he is. I love that. I love that cloud that's coming from the burnt forest. That's hard to say. Ooh, that's really hard to say. But I do. I love that cloud. Thank you, cloud. Well, that's what I wanted to share today. I've been thinking about it for the past week, and I don't know if it's going to help anybody else, because I was telling some people about it, and they're like, okay, if it works for you, yeah, that's a good thing. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this all like sounds wackadoodle cuckoo stuff, but I don't know. I found it very helpful for my thought processes, and I wanted to share that. So thanks for listening to this long video, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that any mind loops that you're dealing with just implode and disappear to nothing, or you realize that you're actually living what you fear right now, and you do something about it, and you live, and you're not paralyzed in fear, but you can act and be present. Well, just, yeah, and live. All right. Bye.